Hey, good morning guys. It's currently 6 a.m. in the morning. I have to be quiet because my girlfriend is sleeping. I'm planning on leaving to CINECOM. He lives 2 hours from here. Fun fact guys, we've known each other for years, ever when we were so small on YouTube. But we've never done a video together. We both used to do corporate videos and we stayed in touch through email, so I've never actually met him in real life, even though we live so close. And then another fun thing, on every event I went, he came always a day later, so we never ended up meeting. Anyway, I'm going there now and I'm going to pick up Enzoe while I'm doing that. He lives very close here. I'm gonna pick him up right now. Let's go. Good morning.
Good morning.
Belgian traffic. Super cold, super cold, super cold, super cold. It's freezing out here. It's actually below zero right now.
You got some breakfast? CINECOM, where are you?
Wow, what an experience. Alright, so I finally did it. We collabed with CINECOM. First of all, the people from CINECOM are very nice people. Each individual person is just an awesome being. Jordi, Jill, Janik, and Lorenzo. They're all very nice and just very humble people. So I had a lot of fun with them. We went on a shoot. I had to act in the video, so that was kind of fun. I was like the bad guy together with Jordi and no spoilers. I'm not gonna give you any spoilers. If you want, go and check it out on their channel. I will put a link in the description below. But basically what we're gonna be talking about in today's video is how I did the visual effects for the video. So my task was to have like a spaceship kind of land in the sand at the desert location, and also for the kind of stones to kind of float when the lightsaber is coming off. Just a note, working on 6K footage, or actually 5K.6, I don't know exactly, I forgot it, but damn, doing visual effects for those is really a pain. Next time I'll just downscale it. It's really not worth it. Before we continue this
epic video,
let me talk about today's video sponsor, CreatorGalaxy. And yes, CreatorGalaxy.com is our own website, but we now have a subscription-based model where you can pay for an entire year and have unlimited downloads from our website. So everything that is on our website right now and everything that is going to come up in that entire year on our website will be available for download to you. And we're not gonna trick you into like, these are premium, these you still have to pay for. No, if you have your subscription, you just get everything. We don't want to be those kind of assholes. We just want you to be able to make awesome videos. And currently we have already templates, presets, packs, but we're also going to be adding songs and courses, so it's gonna be really exciting. Definitely check out CreatorGalaxy.com with the link in the description below. Alright, so let's talk about my workflow on achieving this shot. Alright, so the first thing that you need is a clean plate. We recorded the clean plate on a tripod and had it tilted down. Very importantly is when you're recording your clean plate to check where the light is coming from. For example, we had the sun coming from the left in the back, and maybe you should write that down so you don't lose track on that. Of course, in professional movies, they will also start writing down the distance the model would be. They would actually place a real object to have like reference images. We didn't do all that, but yeah, maybe it's a fun fact. The next thing you need to do is tracking your shot. I will be using the Cinema 4D motion tracker for this instance because it's a really powerful tracker, and yeah, basically in auto it did everything perfectly because we're working with 5K footage. So now you have tracked your shot. Now you need your 3D model. You can either model your own and like spend hours or weeks or months on making a professional looking model, or you can use turbosquid.com. Turbosquid was so nice to provide us this awesome model, which looks basically like it was in the movie. It's also professionally made and it comes with all the textures. So basically all I had to do is import it in Cinema 4D, optimize the textures just a little bit, just so they work with my render engine. Which brings us to the next point, choosing a render engine. I personally work with Octane just because it's super fast, GPU accelerated, and the biggest preview that I can give you is if your render is seen, you get a live preview of your model. Even if you play your timeline, you basically see the final result in your viewport, which isn't possible with the regular renderer of Cinema 4D. So that's why I use Octane. It's super fast, and for YouTubers, creators, we need to be able to work fast. So I really love Octane, and it also makes everything look so much more realistic because all the lights are very accurate. So right here you can see my scene, and as you can see, I just have to import my textures from TurboSquid. So right here we have the base color, the shadows, some of the reflections, the normals, which is basically the bumpiness, like the scratches and all the details of the aircraft. And we just import that, optimize it a little bit, and we're ready to go immediately. Next is to concentrate on the animation. I personally prefer to animate things like that with a null object. So I actually put my spaceship into a null object and I will animate that null object, just because if I decide to choose a different model later on, I can just toggle this off and put another one in that same sequence and it will have the same animation. So animation is an entire skill set on its own and it's really hard to master. I'm not an animator, but I just did my best in creating this, and it's also just like an aircraft. It's not that hard. It's not like really animating a human or something. But basically what you need to do is look at real reference. For example, look at how a helicopter would actually land on the surface and try to recreate the same timing, the same animation right in Cinema 4D when you're animating stuff like this. I also tried to fill in my entire screen, so the aircraft came completely from the right and then it first flew to the left and made a nice turn to just before it actually lands, it comes to a nice stop and it's kind of pushing itself to a slow stop and then it lands. So we are also trying to make the shot look dynamic and yeah, kind of very filled to make it balanced. Next, I just render my entire shot and import it in Adobe After Effects. I actually export everything with multipasses. Multipasses is something all the professionals will use in the visual effects industry. It just gives you so much more flexibility if you want to change your colors afterwards, or you want a little bit less shadows, a little bit more reflections. You can all do that with multipasses. To give you a quick preview, this is the final result, but each individual pass has its own. This is the color, then we have the reflections, we have shadows. And basically, if you, for example, find that this shadow is a little bit too strong, you can lower that like that, but it's only affecting the shadow and not the reflections. If you want more reflections, you can basically duplicate this reflection layer and it will give you more reflections. This is super handy because 3D rendering takes a lot of time, and if you in the end see a little mistake, you don't want to go back and re-render the entire thing. Now you have the flexibility from inside of Adobe After Effects to just change that one particular thing. Alright, so this is our 3D model exported from Cinema 4D and it looks super clean. If we're gonna zoom in, everything looks sharp, everything looks perfect, and basically that's impossible. When you're recording with a camera, nothing is perfectly sharp. It will always have noise, maybe some lens distortion, for example, chromatic aberration, those kind of green and red kind of defringing things that you see. So basically you have to analyze how your camera captured your entire scene, and you need to crapitize your 3D model. This is actually how they call this process. You need to make your 3D model look worse than how you rendered it from Cinema 4D. So the first thing that I've done is I added a Gaussian blur with 2 pixels, for example, to make it a little bit softer. And I also added a channel blur to just blur the edges. The edges were perfectly sharp, and if we use an alpha blur on the alpha blurriness, you can see that if I put it at like 10, you can see that the edges get very blurry, and only the edges and nothing else. So that's why I used an alpha blur here. Next, when I looked at my shot, for example, right here in the stone, you can see kind of green and purple kind of distortion from the lens. And I also want to incorporate that on my 3D model. So what I've added is this VR chromatic aberration, which basically gives you that right here. You can see on the edges that I also added a little bit of distortion. And then at the end, what I also added is an RSMB, which is a plugin to add motion blur back to your 3D model, so it actually looks like it's integrated in the shot, because if you move your hand, it's not perfectly sharp every single frame. So this is going to recreate motion blur. And then we have the match grain, which I make it look at the original footage, and then it's going to try and match the grain on my 3D model. I exaggerated this effect a little bit just so you can see. Right here you see all the noise with the match grain. If I disable this, you see a perfectly clean image. You don't want that. You want to make it look integrated into your shot. And if you zoom out, you basically don't see a single thing of all the effects we just applied, but in the end they're going to make up a more realistic result. So once I had that, I also have my shadow here on the bottom that I imported as a second pass, which is right here. And I just multiply this and added a little bit of blur and try to match it to the shadows that you see in your scene. Next, I just exported this entirely uncompressed just to make everything work a little bit faster, because this really does slow down your entire system. Then I just re-imported my 3D model in Adobe After Effects, and now comes a very important part, and that's reuniting CGI with real stock footage, and that's going to make everything look so much more realistic. So we used dust wave stock footage from Action VFX. Action VFX is like the go-to place when it comes to real recorded stock footage. If you're going to start combining this, because now our plane is kind of landing, but it's kind of dull, it's not really perfect, and if we're going to add some dust elements here from Action VFX, you can see that now it actually looks like it's interacting with our environment. So we have all these dust waves, which basically looks like all the sand is blowing away while the aircraft is rendering. And then lastly, we also added a screen shake on top of everything to make it look like this. Another shot that we've also done are these stone particles that are flying up when the saber is flying from the ground. Basically, it's the entire same workflow, but in this case with particles. And this shot I actually didn't end up doing because I didn't have much time, but a good friend of mine, which is a professional visual effects artist, actually took this under his wing and created this scene. And then of course we want to make everything look pretty, so we graded it a little bit. We also added a planet in the background, which is basically like our sky replacement tutorial. And yeah, once you put everything together, you get this. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give this video a like. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel for more, and definitely hit the notification bell so you stay notified when I upload new videos. And I hope to catch you in the next one. Take care and goodbye.
Nobody
wants that.
Voilà. Allee, op mee hè.
Op u.